The Youth Parliament will now consider the second motion of the day, living wage. The full motion is printed on the order paper. I call the member of the Youth Parliament from County Durham to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is it truly fair that the national minimum wage for workers under the age of 22 is unequal to the national living wage for those over the age of 22? Minimum wage is the lowest wage that any employer can legally pay their employees. This was introduced in the UK in 1998 to strengthen the rights and protection of workers, yet this minimum is not the same for everybody, with only those over 22 being entitled to the living wage, which aims to cover the basic costs of living. Past the age of 16, many young people need to support themselves and sometimes their families financially, yet their minimum wage is currently little over half of the living wage. Past the age of 18, young people may enter full-time work and require the same income to live off as an adult over 22. This is particularly relevant as, according to the House of Commons Library, only 36% of 18-year-olds in the UK entered higher education in 2024, meaning the majority are choosing not to attend university. Many of these people do not receive support from their parents or carers, giving them no choice but to work to provide for themselves. We must guarantee that these young people are able to supply themselves with the basic necessities, which they may not be able to do without earning the living wage. No young person should struggle to earn enough money to survive. It is important that the minimum wage for under 22s is raised, because the value of labour should be universal, meaning that all workers should be paid an equal wage for equal work. This change could prevent the risk of businesses exploiting and overworking young people for cheaper pay and lead to all workers being treated equally by employers too. In summary, raising the minimum wage for workers under 22 to match the national living wage will allow the young people living and working in our constituencies to better support themselves regardless of their situation and make sure that all workers are treated fairly and equally.
The general debate is now open.
Thank you. Hello everyone, my name is Nang and I'm the MYP for the London Borough of Bromley. If there's one thing I'm good at, it's maths. And if maths does me right, then the average 18 to 21-year-old makes about £23,000, rounded to the nearest 1,000. You're welcome. However, a 22 to 29-year-old doing the same job ends up with £30,000. There's a £7,000 difference simply because someone's a year older than you. The problem is that you're paying someone less for the same job, causing income inequality. However, low pay can discourage young people from continuing their education, which I feel is the major issue with the minimum wage. 10,000 students have conducted a survey to see how the cost of living crisis affected them. Now, 76% of the students gave the exact answer that it had a negative impact on their education. This results in the fact that students can no longer continue education simply because they'll be behind on bills. University states that there's a limit to what action they can do without the government. Now, I see an exact correlation with that recently, and I hope you guys will know this, that 16 to 24-year-olds are the loneliest age group in the UK. The minimum wage has a big role in that. This is a crisis that needs action, and needs action now. Thank you.
Yes, from the office, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am Emily Moyer, the member for the Armed Forces Overseas. It is time to end the outdated and unfair system that undervalues young workers. Right now, if you're under 22, you can legally earn a third less than a 23-year-old, even for the same job with the same hours and the same responsibilities. Yet, the cost of living does not discriminate by age. Rent, food, and transport all cost the same whether you're 19 or 29. So the solution is simple: equal pay for equal work. Raising the minimum wage for those under 22 to match those over 22 would prevent exploitation of young workers, ensure fairness in the workplace, and improve financial independence. So, to go against Jessie J, yet again, it is about the money, money, money. A fair day's pay deserves a fair day's work. No exceptions. So vote this as the priority. Thank you.
Yes, in the yellow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Sunny Kai and I'm from Yorkshire and Humber. Hypothetically, let's say this notebook in my hand was made by an 18-year-old, someone who put their blood, sweat and tears into producing. And here's another, identical in every way, but made by a 25-year-old, who also put in the same effort, Both notebooks, they serve the same purpose, they deliver the same results. So why is it that an 18-year-old is paid less for producing the exact same product? This is ageism at its finest. We live in a society where age determines income, not ability, not effort, not dedication. An 18-year-old is just as in need of a fair pay as a 25-year-old. They face the same rise in living costs, the same bills, the same need to support themselves. So why are we putting young people at an economic disadvantage from the start? This wage disparity isn't just unfair, it actively disencourages young people from entering the workforce. Why work just as hard as your older colleagues when you're paid less simply because of your age? It's time we ask ourselves, do we truly value fairness in the workplace? If so, then equal work deserves equal pay no matter the age. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Sophie Bloomfield. I'm the MYP for Redcar and Cleveland. From the 2021 census, we can conclude that for both the 16 to 24-year-old age group and the 25 to 34-year-old age group, the most popular occupation was sales and retail assistants. However, according to the national minimum wage rates effective from April 2021, the youngest members of the age bracket were making almost 50% less than their older colleagues. As I'm sure you'll agree, the livelihoods of our young people have been governed by unfair pay for far too long. In order to allow the enrichment of the lives of the youth population, to improve their financial literacy, and to prepare them for the responsibilities of economic participation, it is vital that we encourage the raising of the national minimum wage for under 22s to equal that of the national living wage. Thank you.
Bingo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Hermione Cartwright and I represent Mid Suffolk. May I start with that there are 16-year-olds that live on their own. Some live with children, some live with mental ill health, and some live with physical ill health. The average person, 16 to 21, has to work right from leaving school age. So why is it fair that they don't get paid as much for doing the same job? The young people that decide to move out at 16 are forced to get a job and may only get £6.40, depending on the job. Under 18s can only work a maximum of 40 hours a week, so that would only earn £256 a week and roughly £124 a month. We also have to bear in mind that they have to be in some sort of education or training from 16 to 18. Therefore, there are also limits. This is also limiting the hours you can work. Other factors we also need to consider is the fact that people need to pay for travel, rent, electric, water and food in order to be sustainable and functionally surviving. £124 a month does not cover all of this. Another issue is that a low-income family who is receiving benefits from and a young person tries to get a job, the benefits will be cut due to the overall household income. This then makes the family struggle more because now that the young person is having to help pay for the living necessities, they can't pay for travel, food or things that the individual person needs on their day-to-day life. Without being able to pay for these things, it limits the young person's success for the future, and that is not okay.
Can I just say to people as well, if you've already spoken, please don't try and take another chance off somebody. Yes, from Oldham, why not?
I'm Louis Wilde and I'm Member of Youth Parliament for Oldham and Saddleworth, the home of Premier League fan members Oldham Athletic AFC. The minimum wage is something that should be equalised. I come from Oldham, which is one of the poorest towns in the country, and a ward called Coldhurst in my town has the highest child poverty rate per capita in the entire UK. I have grown up around lots of people who are young carers, and I've grown up on a council estate which is quite notorious where I'm from for not being the most lavish of places. And the fact that these people, who are 16 to 18-year-olds, are having to get jobs, be paid less and support their own families while barely struggling to actually keep their families afloat is quite honestly a travesty, as I'm sure all of my fellow members agree. And I urge you all to agree with this motion that the minimum wage should be equalised, because the fact that young carers are struggling to provide for their families and put food on the table for everything else is just horrifying, and I'm sure you all agree. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Yeah, second the law. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Matthew Quinn from West Scotland. I respect the aspiration of the motion. I think it's a well-written motion. I just want to provide an alternative point, and that point is this. We have to reflect on what makes young people employable. And the reality is often it is because they are cheap labour. Now, we can disagree with that, we can take exception to that. That's okay. I would argue we should take exception to that. But we have to be aware that by being able to employ young people for less. It keeps young people employed. It ensures that youth unemployment is low, which we're seeing across the UK right now, and it ensures that young people have opportunities for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Erin Belton, and I'm honoured to represent today the young constituents of Bracknell Forest in the South East. Age is a protected characteristic in the UK. I'm sure you can all agree that paying somebody less because of their race, sex or religion would be completely abhorrent. So why should we discriminate based on age? Young people are just as capable as others, and they should be paid as much for doing the exact same job. We've heard about it being called the living wage. How are we as young people supposed to live when we are only earning half as much as somebody a couple of years older than us? How are we supposed to live? How are we supposed to thrive? This is why it is imperative that the national minimum wage for under 22-year-olds should be raised to match the national living wage for those over 22. I've never been prouder to propose. Thank you.
From the end, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Kieran Lancaster. I am the NYP for Caerphilly, and while I'm hearing all lovely speeches where national minimum wage should be... Sorry, Mr. Speaker. While all national living wage should be equal as the national minimum wage, as an 18-year-old who works in a bar, having to listen to conversations about history of Wales or why an 18-year-old is good at darts, I've got a clue, it's not me. Why should we increase the national minimum wage to the national living wage when it's technically already as increased as of April the 1st, 2025? As of April the 1st, 2025, under 18s will earn £7.55, 18 to 21s will earn £10, and over 21s will earn £12.21. If we don't increase the wage, young people will be employed. As from the time frame of October to December 2024, 642,000 young people remained unemployed. That means there was a 14.8 unemployment rate. This is maybe because of a lack of experience or a poor education. We need to encourage young people to gain experience, also to encourage them to go to education. Otherwise, what's the point? Because we're just going to be standing here today, no jobs, no income money, and some people who are the sole income... Sorry, Mr. Speaker, I'm really stuck. Are sole income providers for their family. So I encourage all of you, please let young people in the UK gain experience and gain education. It will benefit everyone, trust me. Thank you very much.
Right at the back, in the farthest corner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Zara. As a representative of Bristol, we have found that our young people believe that we should raise the minimum wage. This is evident from the belief that doing the same job but getting paid less is unfair in the eyes of a young person. The argument that raising the minimum wage allows no improvement throughout the ages of 16 to 22 is heavily disagreed with by our young people, as they believe the experience they gain along their work journey will earn them more money and by their skill level. As well as this, they argue that 16-year-olds' efforts are just as effective and they're just as capable as a 22-year-old, and therefore shouldn't be penalised due to their age. Overall, our youth believe the gap should be closed as they are doing the same job and younger people work just as hard.
Yes, in green, Northerner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Ciara McGee and I am the MYP for Fermanagh and South Tyrone. Now, many people in my constituency, their biggest milestone in life, or one of them, is passing their driving test. Now, I can say I'm a proud second-time passer, and I would like to point out that my car insurance as a first-time driver is £3,527.95. I don't know how any young person can be expected to pay for their car insurance at £6.40 an hour. That would mean working 11 hours a week on top of your full-time education if you're still in it, and also on top of any leisure activities. That is 11 hours per week, never mind petrol, never mind tax, never mind any mechanical repairs needed for the car. I believe young people's hard work and determination, as we can see across this room today, we're such a hard working generation, and we are worth so much more.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Noah Wood and I represent the constituency of Nottinghamshire. Young people are aspirational, they're ambitious and they're capable. But today for the young people we represent, the opportunities are slim and the help is scarce. For many young people, saving and affording the futures they dream of is hard. What's making it harder is a lack of a fair wage for under 22s. Work, I've always understood, is the best way to make something of yourself. And so many young people today are working so hard to fulfil the ambitions they hold onto. Whether it be a Saturday job or a holiday job, whether it be to save for a car, uni or to spend. Either way, work really is the best education, and most of all, because it should come with a reward. This is a policy that needs our support. It isn't just about numbers, it's about fairness. It's about dignity and the recognition of the hard work young people contribute in opening themselves up to employment. Young people are building experiences, leading to careers and futures worthy of the talents and skills they possess and are so wrongly accused of lacking.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Anusha Hussain, the Youth MP of Redbridge. The cost of living is one of the most critical issues families and young people are facing today. School uniform, books, transport does not come without a cost, and it's the same regardless of the price, regardless of age. Aligning the wages of younger workers with those over 22 could alleviate financial hardships faced by young people, ensuring equitable compensation for similar work. Young people's time, hard work, effort is as significant as anyone else. Furthermore, higher wages may encourage more young people to enter workforce, potentially reducing youth unemployment rates, fostering economic independence. As Youth MP of Redbridge, which is a borough with one out of 3 young people living in child poverty, I urge we raise the level of national minimum wage so young people aren't left behind and we close the gap of inequality. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Daisy Foley. I'm from Cheshire East. University is expensive, and as the cost of living crisis continues to increase and increase and increase, our wages don't seem to go up as well. From April this year, the national minimum wage for under 18 will be £7.55, which is about the same as a drink from Costa. How are we meant to have financial independence or prepare for our future if we are not paid enough to do so? We will do the same job, we will do the same hours, yet we are paid less because of factors that we cannot change, our age. Thank you.
Yes, back one second.
My name's Adria and I represent East North Yorkshire. I live in a small northern coastal town with houses mainly owned by retired people settling down. We are surrounded by many holiday homes and not many well-paid jobs, so without teenagers and young adult workers, cafes, restaurants and leisure facilities that provide services for the influx of summer tourists would be massively understaffed, resulting in many having to close, causing further issues for the limited older workforce we do have. I may be in the minority when I say I have worked since I was 13 and I'm approaching my 4th year working the busy summer season. Why then am I expected to take a lesser wage for the same job someone 6 years older than me does? Especially considering in some cases I have more experience. This feels like ageism at its finest.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lucas Wainwright, MYP for County Durham. From April 2025, the national minimum wage for over 21s will rise to £12.10 an hour, but 16 and 17-year-olds doing the same hard work will only get £7.55. That's an 18% increase, yet still far below what's needed to live. Young workers are often exploited for cheap labour, working long, physically demanding jobs for as little as £6.40 an hour. Many are trying to save for independence, university, or simply to afford for the basic necessities. As Maya from the Durham Youth Council said, every worker deserves dignity, no matter their age. Raising the minimum wage for under 22s to match the living wage isn't just fair, it's necessary for a just society. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hello, my name is Thomas and I'm the MYP for Essex in the east of England. I'd like you just to imagine this for one moment. Imagine not being able to afford the basic necessities like food, water or shelter. It's a harsh reality, isn't it? But it isn't just a reality. It's reality for so many young people up and down the country. The cost of living crisis isn't easier for 16-year-olds compared to 22-year-olds. It is exactly the same. Our cost of living is the same for young people aged 23 and 18. So why can a 17-year-old earn just £6.40 an hour, while a 23-year-old earns just over £11 an hour? The cost of living, again, does not decrease for young people. They pay the same for rent, transport and food as our older colleagues or peers. Low wages push young people into financial insecurity, forcing young people to take multiple jobs while studying, which can detriment or harm their education and well-being. If young people are expected to thrive and continue in their education and also contribute to the economy, they must be compensated equally for their work. Raising the national minimum wage for under 22-year-olds to match the national living wage is not just a matter of fairness, it is a necessity for financial security and economic stability. So I do urge you to vote on this motion. Thank you.
Woman in the middle, yes. Yep. No, stand up. Yeah, no, yeah. No, behind you. Yeah. No, not you, next door. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Emma and I am the representative for the constituency of Somerset in the South West. We do the same work, so why shouldn't we get the same pay? How are we expecting to have a thriving job market with young people gaining independence when young people are being underpaid and unfairly treated in the workplace? This motion must be prioritised as young people need to be encouraged into the job market and be involved in a positive working environment, as we are all going to be in jobs for a long time. This is a permanent issue which isn't only for now. Your entry into the job market stays with you until you retire, forming the basic building blocks to future employment and success. In addition, if under 22s are paid the same as over 22s, their work ethic and drive to improve their skills will increase, helping you, helping me, helping the community. Everyone in society is affected by these young people who work these jobs. Why shouldn't we prioritise this? As youth representatives, we need to ensure that every young person entering the job market is paid the same as over 22, so that they can work in a positive environment to ensure they can flourish and perform at their best. This change in the minimum wage must be prioritised. It affects every single young person under the age of 22 who has a job. We must prioritise this to draw attention to the lack of equal monetary support behind young people in jobs, and we must ensure that young people are valued and represented in their working communities. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name's Katrina and I represent Central Scotland. I'd like to tell you all about a constituent of mine who helps his family pay for groceries. They live in poverty and he works minimum wage. He is lucky compared to others. His family can survive without his wage, even if it was hard. Others can't. Why should families who don't have enough money to survive have to rely on children who aren't getting paid enough themselves? Everybody should be paid enough to survive. Thank you.
Yes. That one.
My name's Yvonne Dixit. I'm representing West Sussex. Consider a young worker, barely 21, who does the same job as someone slightly older, earns up to 25% less simply because of their age. The official figures from the UK government make it clear. Our minimum wage structure penalises youth, despite the fact that living costs remain the same. Analyses by the Resolution Foundation and the Institute for Fiscal Studies reveal that this disparity pushes many young workers into in-work poverty. International evidence from New Zealand shows that reforming youth wage rates can be done without harming employment and even boost economic security. It's time we remove age-based wage discrimination and ensure that every worker under 22 receives a wage that truly reflects the cost of living in today's world.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Rihanna and I represent Blaenau Gwent. In 2023, an estimated 13% of girls gave birth before they were aged 18. If they are single mothers, emancipated or young homeowners, why are they not getting paid the same amount as those over the age of 21? The reason for this is that the government want to encourage young people to stay in school. However, this is not realistic and it is not their decision to make. Young people should not be subject to this blatant age discrimination. It is not fair to expect the same work ethic for less compensation. After years of the UK advocating for equality and fighting to close the gender pay gap, we have created a new discriminatory salary. This needs to change. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Sienna here, MYP for Wolverhampton. We're always told that young people are the future. If this is the case, in the shadow of a cost of living crisis, when student debt is inescapable, how can we be justifiably denied a fair wage? It's called the minimum wage, but why should we be forced to start our journey into adulthood with the bare minimum life has to offer? How are we supposed to thrive when we aren't given an income that allows us to? Because employment defined by financial difficulty and underpinned by struggle ruins the purpose of work at all. By not allowing us to have a feasible wage on the basis of age, you are undermining our value to the world before we've even had a chance to contribute to it. By saying we don't have enough experience, not only are you belittling us, but you are condemning us to a life of dependence. Because to contribute to this great society, young people need to be valued by it first. So yes, I'm calling for changes in the minimum wage so we can get the maximum out of our future. Thank you.
I now call the Member of the Youth Parliament from Lagan Valley to conclude the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. This is one of the many rules within George Orwell's Animal Farm, but I need you to bear with me for a moment. I promise I'll explain how a book published in 1945 is relevant to fair pay for all. The reason that the living wage is called the living wage is because you're meant to be able to live on it. But we, as young people, need to be able to live too. We need to be able to afford transport, food, stationery for our education, and oil to heat our homes. But we simply cannot afford to, due to being asked to work like adults, but not being paid like adults. I understand that many young people have parents to support them, but not everyone has someone that can or is in the financial position to do so. Some young people rely on the money that they earn, not to mention the fact that many 16 to 21-year-olds are not in education, but instead work full-time. They deserve to receive a livable wage, as they are working the same amount of hours as someone over the age of 22 would. Costs are the same for many items, regardless of age. For example, in Northern Ireland, adult fares on public transport are payable from age 16 right up until you receive an OAP card. Furthermore, menstrual products are the same age whether you are 16 or 26, and they are a day-to-day factor for many people. A 16-year-old being paid $6.40 an hour is expected to pay the same as a 22-year-old being paid $11.40 an hour. I ask this chamber, how is it fair? I want to go back to my earlier quote from Animal Farm and how we're all equal, but some are more equal than others. Mr. Speaker, those that are 16 to 21 often do the exact same jobs as those who are 22. They are equal in employment, but those who are 22 and over are more equal as they get paid so much more. Thank you.